I'm standing at my own wedding reception, champagne glass in my hand, watching my new husband Gerald smile at me from across the room. Everything is perfect. The flowers, the music, the warm spring evening. But then his best man stands up to give a speech, and I hear that voice. I know that voice. My hand starts trembling before I even turn to look, and when I do, my champagne glass nearly slips from my fingers. It's Trevor, my boss, my ex-husband, and he's about to tell everyone a secret that will shatter everything I thought I knew about my past. Before we dive into the story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the twist in this tale is something you won't see coming. Trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end. Let me take you back to where this all started, because nothing about this day makes sense without understanding how I got here. 3 years ago, I was married to the love of my life. Or at least, I thought he was. We met in college, fell hard and fast, got married at 24 in a small ceremony that felt like a fairy tale. For 5 years, we built a life together. He worked in commercial real estate development, and I was climbing the ladder in marketing. We had plans: kids, a house with a big backyard, growing old together. All the dreams young couples have when they think love conquers everything. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. He became distant, cold. He'd come home late, barely talk to me, spend hours locked in his home office. I thought maybe he was having an affair, or maybe he just didn't love me anymore. I tried everything to fix us: date nights, couples therapy, heartfelt conversations at 2 in the morning where I begged him to tell me what was wrong. He'd just look at me with these sad, tired eyes and say, "I can't do this anymore." That's all. No explanation, no real reason, just 5 words that ended 5 years of marriage. The divorce was quick, painfully quick. He didn't fight for anything, didn't want the apartment, the furniture, the photos. He signed the papers, transferred money into my account, and walked away like our entire relationship meant nothing. I was 29, heartbroken and completely lost. The man I thought I'd spend my life with vanished, changed his number, moved out of state, blocked me on everything. It was like he wanted to erase me from his existence. And honestly, I wanted to erase him too. The pain was too much to carry around every day. So I did what any woman does when her world falls apart. I rebuilt. Got therapy, leaned on my friends, threw myself into my career. A year after the divorce, I was ready for a fresh start. I applied for a marketing director position at a boutique real estate firm that specialized in luxury properties and urban development. The pay was incredible, the role was challenging, and honestly, I needed something good in my life. The entire interview process was virtual because we were still dealing with COVID protocols. I never met my boss face to face, never saw him on camera, just phone calls and emails with someone named Trevor Hamilton. I got the job. I was thrilled. My first day, I walked into that office building feeling like I was finally taking control of my life again. The receptionist directed me to the executive floor, told me Trevor was expecting me in his office. I knocked on that heavy wooden door, heard a muffled "come in," and pushed it open. And there he was, my ex-husband, sitting behind that massive desk, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. I literally froze in the doorway. He looked different, I'll give him that. He'd grown a full beard, wore glasses now, had gained maybe 30 pounds. His whole style had changed from the clean-cut corporate look to something more rugged, more worn down. But it was him. Without question, it was him. And from the look on his face, he knew exactly who I was when he hired me. I don't remember what I said, something probably incoherent. I just remember backing out of that office, ready to run, ready to quit on the spot. But he came around the desk, closed the door, and said, "Please, just give me 5 minutes. If you still want to leave after that, I'll understand. I'll even write you a recommendation letter for anywhere else you want to go." I should have left right then, but something in his voice stopped me. He wasn't the cold, distant man who divorced me. He looked broken, desperate, so I stayed. And he told me that he needed this job to work out for both of us, that he'd keep everything completely professional, that our past would stay in the past. He promised me that if I could just give him a chance to prove he could be a good boss, he'd make sure my career flourished here. The salary was 60,000 more than my last job. The benefits were incredible, and I needed this. I needed to prove to myself that I could handle anything, even working with the man who broke my heart. So I stayed. And for 2 years, Trevor kept his word. He was the perfect boss. Professional, supportive, never once crossing a line. He gave me the best projects, fought for my promotions, celebrated my wins. Our coworkers had no idea we had any history. To them, we were just a boss and his star employee who worked really well together. But sometimes, when he thought I wasn't looking, I'd catch him staring at me with this expression of such deep sadness that it actually hurt to see. He never dated anyone, never talked about his personal life, just worked late into the night, every night, like the office was the only place he had to be. I didn't understand it then. I thought maybe he regretted the divorce but was too proud to say it, or maybe he just felt guilty. Either way, I kept my distance emotionally. I was polite, professional, and determined not to let him back into my heart. Then, 8 months ago, I met Gerald. The company was hosting a charity auction to raise money for affordable housing initiatives, and I donated a dinner package at one of the nicest restaurants in the city. Gerald bid on it. He was handsome, charming, worked in sustainable architecture, designing homes for underserved communities. We had dinner, talked for hours, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real, genuine hope that maybe I could love again. Gerald was everything my ex-husband wasn't. Open, communicative, emotionally available. He talked about his feelings. He made plans for our future. He integrated me into his life immediately, introducing me to his family, his friends, his whole world. Within 3 months, we were talking about marriage. Within 6 months, he proposed during a weekend trip to a cabin in the mountains. I said yes without hesitation. I'd found my second chance at happiness. I told Gerald about my ex-husband, of course, told him about the painful divorce, the heartbreak, the healing, but I didn't tell him that my ex was my boss. It felt unnecessary. My past was my past, and Gerald was my future. When I announced my engagement at work, Trevor smiled and congratulated me. He seemed genuinely happy for me. He gave me extra time off for wedding planning, sent an expensive crystal vase to my bridal shower with a card that just said, "Wishing you every happiness." I didn't invite him to the wedding. That felt like a bridge too far. He was my boss, yes, but having my ex-husband at my wedding felt wrong on every level. The wedding day itself was absolutely perfect. Small ceremony, close friends and family, everything elegant and intimate. Gerald's best man was someone he'd mentioned before, but I'd never met. They'd become close friends over the past few years through some volunteer work, and Gerald always spoke about him with such respect and affection. I was actually looking forward to meeting this person who meant so much to my husband. The reception was magical. We'd rented this beautiful garden venue with string lights and flowers everywhere. Our first dance was perfect. The food was delicious. Everyone was laughing and celebrating. I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. And then the best man stood up to give his speech. I heard his voice before I saw him, that same voice that used to whisper, "I love you" in the dark, the same voice that said, "I can't do this anymore," and shattered my world. I turned, and there was Trevor, standing with the microphone, looking directly at me. Gerald was smiling, completely oblivious to the fact that his best man and his new wife had once promised to love each other until death. Trevor's hands were shaking. I could see that even from where I sat. He started speaking, and the whole room went quiet. I want to tell you all a story about how I met Gerald. 3 years ago, I was in the darkest place of my life. I'd just been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave me maybe 8 months to live. And I made a decision that I thought was the right one at the time. I left the person I loved most in this world because I couldn't bear the thought of making her watch me die. The room was absolutely silent. I couldn't breathe. Gerald's face had gone pale. Trevor kept talking, his voice cracking with emotion. I divorced my wife without telling her why. I pushed her away as hard as I could because I loved her too much to put her through that kind of pain. I thought I was doing the noble thing, the loving thing. I sold everything I owned to pay for experimental treatment that insurance wouldn't cover. I lost my business, my home, everything. But I was okay with that because at least she was free. At least she wouldn't have to hold my hand while I wasted away. Tears were streaming down my face. I felt Gerald reach for my hand, squeezing it tight, and I realized he was crying too. Trevor continued, I met Gerald at a support group for people dealing with terminal illness. Except Gerald wasn't there for himself. He was volunteering his time as an architect, offering free design services to help people modify their homes for end-of-life care. He sat with me every week, listened to me talk about the woman I'd left behind, the regret that ate at me more than any cancer ever could. He became my brother when I thought I'd die alone. Trevor paused, wiping his eyes. After 18 months of treatment, something miraculous happened. I went into remission. The cancer was gone. I'd survived, but I'd lost everything in the process. I had to start over from nothing, build a new career, a new life, and through it all, Gerald was there. When I finally got back on my feet and started my company, I made a decision. I found out where my ex-wife was working, and I made sure she got a job offer from me. I hired her knowing exactly who she was. I heard gasps around the room. Trevor looked at me with such raw honesty, it hurt. Every promotion I gave you, you earned. But I made sure the opportunities were there. Every bonus, every big project, every success. I wanted to take care of you the only way I could. From a distance, professionally. I thought if I couldn't be your husband, at least I could make sure your career thrived. At least I could do something to make up for the pain I caused. He turned to Gerald. And when you told me about this amazing woman you'd met, shown me her picture, I knew. I knew it was her, my ex-wife, the love of my life. And you know what I felt? Relief, joy, because she'd found you, brother. She'd found someone who could give her everything I couldn't. Someone whole and healthy and capable of the future I thought I'd stolen from her. I never told you because I wanted her to have this happiness without any shadows from the past. But I can't stand up here and toast to your marriage without being honest about who I am and what I've done. Trevor raised his glass, his hand still trembling. To Gerald and his beautiful bride, you've both given me more than you'll ever know. You gave me friendship when I was alone. You gave me purpose when I thought I'd lost everything. And together, you've shown me that love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Sometimes love is letting go. Sometimes love is staying away. And sometimes love is standing at your best friend's wedding, watching the woman you never stopped loving marry someone who deserves her more than you ever did. To love in all its complicated forms. The room erupted in a mixture of tears and applause. I was sobbing. Gerald was holding me, and I realized he was shaking too. After the speech, the three of us found a quiet room away from the reception. Trevor stood on one side, Gerald and I on the other, and for a moment, nobody spoke. There was too much to say, and no words adequate enough to say it. Finally, I looked at Trevor and asked the only question that mattered. Are you okay? The cancer? Still in remission, he said quietly. 2 years clear now. I'm being monitored, but the doctors are optimistic. Gerald spoke up, his voice thick with emotion. You never told me she was your ex-wife. All those nights you talked about her, and you never said her name. I couldn't, Trevor admitted. If I'd said her name, you might have connected the dots, and I couldn't risk messing up her happiness again. When you told me you were proposing, I almost told you then.
But you were so in love, so excited about your future. How could I complicate that? I stood up and walked over to Trevor. He looked at me with such fear, like he thought I might slap him or scream at him or tell him I hated him. Instead, I hugged him. I wrapped my arms around the man who'd broken my heart and held him while we both cried. "You should have told me," I whispered, "about the cancer, about everything. I would have stayed. I would have fought with you." "I know," he said. "That's exactly why I couldn't tell you. You deserve a whole life, not one defined by hospitals and fear. Look at you now. Look at what you have. I made the right choice, even if it was the hardest thing I've ever done." Gerald joined us, putting his hand on Trevor's shoulder. "You're family, man. You've always been family, and now I understand why. We're going to figure this out together. All three of us." That night, after our guests had left and Gerald and I were alone, we talked for hours about love and sacrifice and the ways people hurt us while trying to protect us, about how life is so much more complicated than we ever imagined when we were young and thought love was simple. Gerald held me while I cried for the years I'd spent hating a man who'd only ever tried to love me the best way he knew how. And I held Gerald while he processed the fact that his best friend and his wife had this whole history he never knew about. In the weeks since the wedding, the three of us have been learning how to navigate this new reality. Trevor is still my boss, but now there's honesty between us. No more secrets, no more distance. He's also Gerald's best friend, which means he's part of our lives whether I'm ready for it or not. And honestly, I think I am ready. Because I understand now that some people love you enough to let you go. Some people sacrifice their own happiness because they truly believe it's what's best for you. I have two good men in my life now. One who loved me enough to set me free, and one who loves me enough to build a future with me. It's messy and complicated and nothing like what I imagined my life would look like. But it's real, it's honest, and it's mine. Trevor gave me the greatest gift he could give at my wedding, the truth. And with that truth came understanding, forgiveness, and a kind of closure I didn't even know I needed. I'm learning that second chances don't erase the past. They build on it. Every experience, every heartbreak, every sacrifice leads us to where we're meant to be. And right now, surrounded by love in all its complicated forms, I'm exactly where I belong. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and share it with someone who believes in second chances. Drop a comment below telling me what you would have done in this situation. Could you forgive someone who broke your heart to save you from pain? Subscribe for more incredible true stories that prove life is stranger than fiction. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes love means letting go, but real love always finds a way back.